The year was 1943. The world was in the midst of its most devastating war. Across the Atlantic Ocean, German submarines were sinking American supply ships, and the war was creeping ever closer to America's shores. The Navy was desperate for a solution, a way to create a warship that could become completely invisible to enemy radar. And that solution would be known as the Philadelphia Experiment.
In the closed laboratories of the Philadelphia Naval Base, a secret project was launched. This project was based on Albert Einstein's unified field theory. According to the theory, if gravity, electricity, and magnetism could be united under a single formula, space-time could be warped, matter might become invisible, and even passage between dimensions could become possible. The scientists wanted to turn this theory into a military advantage. The plan was simple and insane. Powerful electromagnetic fields would be applied around the ship. Those fields would bend light and radar, rendering the ship invisible. The ship chosen for the project, the USS Eldridge. It was a new destroyer, ready for war, but its fate was not to fight, it was to become one of history's most mysterious experiments. The preparations had been meticulous. Massive coils, generators, and thick cables now crisscrossed the deck of the ship. The crew was told it was a magnetic field test designed to make the vessel less visible to radar. No one, however, knew the full truth of what they were about to witness. July 22, 1943, arrived like any other summer day, but it would not remain ordinary for long. The order came. The generators roared to life, sending vibrations through the steel hull. At first, it was a subtle shudder. Then it grew, rumbling through the deck boards, seeping into the very bones of the ship. And then the mist appeared. A dense, greenish fog curling around the USS Eldridge, thickening, glowing. Witnesses could hardly believe their eyes. The ship, it glowed, one sailor later recounted. The air seemed to twist around it, and then, just like that, it vanished. Philadelphia Harbor fell silent. The USS Eldridge had disappeared completely, leaving no trace, unseen by eyes or radar. And for those who had been there, the memory of that impossible moment would haunt them forever. At that very moment, some 600 kilometers away, sailors at the Norfolk, Virginia base noticed something utterly strange. A ghostly green glow shimmered across the sky. Then, for a fleeting instant, a warship appeared in the harbor. The USS Eldridge lingered for only a few minutes, then vanished right before their eyes. Seconds later, it re-emerged in Philadelphia Harbor. But nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. When the ship returned, a horrifying scene awaited the crew. Some sailors were vomiting, screaming, smashing themselves against the metal railings. But the most terrifying. Some of their bodies had fused with the metal of the ship. Yes, literally. Their flesh seemed to meld with the structure, as if matter and metal had become one. Some had vanished entirely. Some were still invisible, yet their voices could be heard. Some had gone mad, claiming they had passed through time or walked through walls. Soon, the ship was sealed. The incident was classified at the highest level. Navy reports listed it as an electrical accident. But none of those present that day returned the same as they had been. Afterward, all the documents were sealed with a top secret stamp. Every personnel leaving the Philadelphia base was silenced, some vanished mysteriously. But years later, a letter surfaced. The sender, Carlos Allende, or by his real name, Carl Allen. In the letter, he claimed that Einstein's theory had been tested, that the ship had indeed been teleported, and that it had even traveled through time. This letter was sent in 1955 to Navy researcher Morris Jessup. Jessup began investigating the matter. But shortly after, he was found dead in his car. Official records declared it a suicide, but there were inconsistencies in the file. In the 1980s, a man named Al Bielek came forward. And what he claimed was beyond belief. Bielek said he had been part of that very experiment. During the test, the electromagnetic field destabilized, space and time warped, and he and his brother were teleported to the year 1983. There, at the Montauk base, secret experiments were underway. He claimed the Philadelphia experiment had been merely the beginning of that project. According to Bielek, the experiment didn't just bend light to create invisibility, it tore at the very fabric of time itself. And from that moment on, humanity began to face the consequences of tampering with space and time. The scientific community, of course, dismissed these claims. Even the complete version of Einstein's theory was still missing. While bending light through electromagnetic fields was theoretically possible, the technology of that era made such an experiment impossible to perform. But there were still too many things that couldn't be explained. Independent testimonies from multiple witnesses. Missing Navy records. Crew members driven to madness. And strange traces of electromagnetic energy. When the war ended, the USS Eldridge was sold to Greece. Its new name, HS Leon. Even the Greek sailors reported strange occurrences aboard the ship. Some instruments would activate on their own, and on certain nights, eerie lights were seen flickering around the vessel. Eventually, the ship was decommissioned. But it's said that even now, faint traces of fused metal can still be found along its hull. For 80 years, the Philadelphia experiment has fascinated both scientists and conspiracy researchers alike. Some say it was nothing more than an exaggerated radar test. But others believe that something truly went wrong that day. A boundary was crossed. Humanity had touched the veil behind space and time. And perhaps, that veil has never fully closed.